Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. Taking a break from the seasonal cards to use my Ombre ink pad on a die cut. I'm using the Stacked Hearts die by Simon Says Stamp and the Ombre Meadow ink pad by Hero Arts. So first I'm going to take my die and cut it out of some Neenah cardstock. It's a pretty detailed die, so I had to use a couple of Mylar shims to get a nice cut. And I'm going to pop it out and save 3 hearts off to the side to color later. I need to adhere my die cut to something, so I'm just going to take a piece of scratch paper, put a little bit of tape runner on it. I'm going to measure here the top and the bottom. If you have repositionable, I think it's better because I had a little bit of trouble getting it off, but just something to stick it to a piece of scratch paper. And so now I've got it flat and I can use my ink pad, and so I want the green to be in the middle. It's pretty obvious which color is on the top and the bottom. At first I'm just going to eyeball where the green needs to go, make sure it's in the middle of the die. So I just did a little tap to make sure I had it right. And it was pretty good, so I just kind of kept tapping it and moving it up and down and up and down. And I can tell you that it is so much easier to color a die cut when you're using paper with this ink pad rather than trying to ink up a stamp. I found a little bit of a trick to using a stamp with this ink pad, and I'll show that in another video. But for now, I'm just working with the paper, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. The colors really blend nicely together. You kind of have to press hard to get the ink covering the whole die cut since it's kind of rounded around the edges. But if you have trouble, see, I'm pushing it with my finger to make sure that every area has full coverage of the ink. And so it didn't really take me long to cover the whole thing. So I just took my tweezers and I took it off of this scratch paper, and that part is complete. Now for those 3 hearts that I set aside, I'm going to color them with a 110 Copic marker. It's just a black solid marker. You could also use like a zig marker or any black marker really. Now I'm going to work on my background. I'm going to use Versamark ink and I'm going to do direct to paper because I want it to look like it's kind of painted on with a roller painter brush. And so I'm very barely touching the paper, so I'm not pushing down very hard. I'm going to do from each side toward the middle, and I'm using probably about the top 1/4 of my ink pad. And you can see when I put the embossing powder, this is silver embossing powder, that there's a lot of blank areas, and that's because I very lightly touched the paper and I didn't push down very hard with my ink pad. I'm going to trim this panel so I have an 1/8 of an inch mat on all sides. I wanted a really small sentiment, so I pulled it from this Mom and Dad icon set by Simon Says Stamp and just white embossed it on some black cardstock. I decided to use 2-way glue pen to adhere my hearts. So notice that I'm keeping it very still and flat with my left hand while I quickly apply the glue with my right hand. And the reason why is because I don't want it moving around and accidentally getting glue on the front. Because it did take a little while to get glue all over the whole thing, the top started to dry just a little bit and it pulled off a little bit of the front, but not enough to remove the color, so I was lucky. I was really surprised how long the 2-way glue pen stayed wet, so I probably took 20 seconds or so to position it on the panel, and I didn't have any problems with it drying. So it was still sticky, and I pressed it down, and it also stuck to the embossing powder. I was a little worried about that, but I didn't have any problems. For the black hearts, I'm going to add the glue to the background panel and then insert the black heart with a pair of tweezers. I want my sentiment to look like it's coming out of the heart, so I'm going to position it where I want it to start, mark the top of the heart, and then I can use the negative against that pencil mark to position it and draw my guide for the heart. My thought was to cut this with scissors, which I did, but I mistakenly thought I didn't need my glasses, but apparently I did. So now I'm going to have to redo it, and so I'm going to put it against a piece of grid paper, and that way I make sure that my sentiment is straight. And now I'm going to draw that heart guide again, and then I'll cut it. And this time I put my glasses on and it came out great. So you can see how it goes right up against the heart. I'm just going to mark the other side and cut that with a scissor, and then I can put some 2-way glue on the back and put it right up against that heart. So next I'm going to take this panel and lay it flat and then put some Scotch foam all over it, and I'll adhere this to a Hero Arts black note card very carefully. And then for the final detail, I'm going to take a Wink of Stella clear pen and just go over these black hearts to give them a little bit of shimmer. And that is the card for today. So a little bit different for the season. I wasn't really expecting to do a heart card, but why not, right? So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.